The first dragon's soul felt like swallowing a star. I stood over the smoking corpse at the western watchtower, my hands still shaking from the battle, when its scales began to peel away in ribbons of golden light. The guards were cheering, Irilith was shouting orders, but I heard none of it, because something was pouring into me, forcing itself through my eyes, my mouth, my skin. It burned like molten metal being poured down my throat. It tasted like copper and ash, and something else, something ancient that had no name in any mortal language. The greybeards never warned me about the echoes. They said I would gain power. They said I would understand the Thuum. They did not say the souls would come with memories that leak through cracks, impressions of lives I never lived, emotional residue that clings to my thoughts like oil on water. The dragon's name was Mirmulnir. He had lived since the Merethic era, since before the first era had a name. I felt his impressions flood my skull. The heat of fire in his throat, the joy of flight over burning cities, the absolute certainty that mortals existed only to serve or to die. These were not my memories, but they felt like mine. They still do. That was 3 months ago. I have not slept without nightmares since. The people of Skyrim call me Dragonborn. They speak the word like a blessing, like a gift from the divines themselves. They do not understand. They cannot understand. Because to carry dragon souls within your own, to have your humanity scraped away piece by piece with every kill, to hear the whispers of dead gods in your skull every waking moment, this is not a blessing. This is a curse, and I am its prisoner. Before Helgen, I had a name that meant something. I had a life, ordinary and small, but mine. I was a trader's son from Bruma, raised on the border between Cyrodiil and Skyrim. My father sold furs and amber to travelling merchants. My mother kept the books and raised 3 children in a stone cottage that always smelled of pine smoke and bread. I remember winter mornings, stamping snow from my boots while my mother set porridge on the table. The ceramic bowl was chipped on one side, but she never replaced it because my grandmother had given it to her. I remember summer evenings, helping my father sort through pelts, learning to feel the difference between good quality and mediocre with my fingertips. He would quiz me with my eyes closed, and I would run my hands over the furs until I could name the animal, the region, the season of the kill. I remember my younger brother asking me endless questions about the world beyond our small town, and my older sister rolling her eyes at both of us while she practiced her letters by candlelight. Normal things, forgettable things, the kind of memories that fade naturally as years pass. I would give anything to have them back. I crossed into Skyrim to find work. The Great War had ended decades ago, but the Empire was still bleeding gold, and opportunities in Cyrodiil had dried up like rivers in last seed. I had heard there was money to be made in the north, lumber camps, mining operations, maybe even joining a merchant caravan that ran between the holds. Anything to send coin home to my family. I was 23 years old. I had never killed anyone. I had never held a weapon longer than a hunting knife. I had never seen a dragon, except in the carvings on old temples. I did not believe in destiny or prophecy or any of the old stories about the tongues and the dragon war. Those were legends for children and priests. I believed in honest work and a warm hearth, and the simple hope that tomorrow would be better than today. Then the Imperial ambush caught me at the border. I still do not know why they arrested me. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong accent. The Stormcloaks were there, including Ulfric himself, and the Legion was not asking questions. They bound my hands so tight the rope left burns that took weeks to heal. They threw me in a cart with rebels and a horse thief, and the next morning I watched a soldier place his head on a block and die for a war I did not understand. I remember the sound the axe made, wet and final. I remember the headsman wiping his blade on the dead man's tunic. Then the sky tore open, and a dragon the color of midnight landed on the tower above us. Everything after that moment has been a nightmare I cannot wake from. They told me I was special in High Hrothgar. The Greybeards, ancient men who had not spoken above a whisper in decades, called me Dovahkiin, Dragonborn. They said I had the soul of a dragon in the body of a mortal, that I could absorb the very essence of the winged terrors and use their power as my own. They said Akatosh himself had blessed me. They said I was the only one who could stop Alduin, the World Eater, the first dragon, who had returned to devour the world. They said many things. What they did not say was what any of this would cost me. The 7,000 steps to High Hrothgar nearly killed me, cold so deep it made my bones ache. wind that cut through my fur cloak like it was made of paper, ice trolls that watched from caves, deciding whether I was worth the effort of hunting. When I finally reached the monastery, I could not feel my fingers or toes. Frost had formed on my eyelashes. I thought the worst was behind me. I was wrong. The first month was confusion. I learned the thuum, the voice, the ancient art of shouting words so powerful they became reality. Fus, force. The first word they taught me, I stood on the throat of the world and screamed it at the sky, and the wind itself bent to my will. Rocks tumbled. Snow exploded outward. The very air seemed to recoil from the sound. It felt like power. It felt like purpose. It felt like freedom. But freedom is an illusion when prophecy has already written your ending. The dragons returned in greater numbers. Every village, every farm, every road became a hunting ground. I could see the smoke rising from distant valleys, could hear the screams carried on the wind, and wherever they appeared, people looked at me, not with fear, not with curiosity, with expectation, with the desperate hope of those who have put all their faith in a single mortal and have nowhere else to turn. I killed the second dragon at Kynesgrove. Delphine, the last of the Blades, had tracked Alduin there, and we arrived just in time to watch him resurrect one of his fallen kin. The World Eater landed on an ancient burial mound and shouted in Dovazul, words so powerful they tore reality open. The earth split, bones reassembled, scales grew over muscle that had not existed moments before, and from the grave rose Sahaloknir, reborn after thousands of years of death. The battle lasted nearly an hour. I was burned by fire that melted my shield. I was frozen by breath so cold it turned my blood to ice in my veins. I was thrown against rocks, nearly crushed beneath his tail, almost swallowed whole when he pinned me to the ground and opened his jaws above my face. When he finally fell, I was barely standing. My armor was shattered, my sword was notched and bent. I had broken 3 ribs and could feel blood pooling in my lungs with every breath. Then his soul poured into me. More echoes, more impressions. The pride of serving Alduin, the confusion of death. The rage of resurrection followed immediately by destruction, another presence joining the growing chorus in my skull. By the 5th dragon, I had stopped counting. By the 10th, I had stopped sleeping. By the 20th, I had stopped trying to remember who I was before. The dragon souls do not fade, they do not quiet. They are there, always, whispering in Dovazul, the dragon language, arguing among themselves, mocking my mortality, my weakness, my pathetic human concerns. Some of them beg for release, others rage against their imprisonment. A few, the oldest and cruelest, simply laugh. They laugh because they know what I am becoming. Everyone wants something from the Dragonborn. The greybeards want me to study the way of the voice, to become a monk, to spend my life in contemplation on their frozen mountain. They speak of balance and wisdom and the proper use of power. Master Arngir lectures me about restraint while the world burns, about meditation while villages are reduced to ash. Easy philosophy for men who have abandoned the world below. But their leader, Parthenax, is a dragon himself, a former lieutenant of Alduin who claims to have changed, who claims to have spent thousands of years mastering his own violent nature. When I look into his ancient eyes, I see the same hunger that burns in every dragon soul I carry. He wants something from me too, though he hides it better than most. I think he wants forgiveness. I think he wants someone to tell him that he has atoned for the atrocities he committed in the Dragon War. I cannot give him that. I carry impressions of his victims inside me. I have felt echoes of what he did. The Blades want me to be a weapon. Delphine and Esbern, the last of their order, talk of dragon hunting and destiny and the glory of the old ways. They want me to kill Parthenax. They demand it, as if I am some tool to be pointed at their enemies. When I refused, they stopped speaking to me. The last Dragonborn, and the dragon hunters want nothing to do with him. The Jarl of Whiterun gave me a house, a title, a place at his table. Breezehome, he called it, a small place near the market, with a bed that was too soft after months of sleeping on stone. He speaks of honour and duty, and the bonds between a lord and his thane. But I see how he looks at me when he thinks I am not watching. Relief that I am on his side. Fear of what I might do if I were not. Ulfric Stormcloak sends messengers weekly. He wants me to fight for the rebellion, to use my voice against the Empire. He speaks of Talos and freedom and the true heritage of the Nords. He does not mention the people who will die. He does not mention that his voice killed the High King, that he murdered a man with the same power that flows through my blood. General Tullius sends messengers too. The Empire needs stability. The Empire needs unity. The Empire needs me to put down the rebellion. He does not mention the Thalmor pulling his strings. He does not mention what happens in the embassy dungeons. And then there are the Daedric Princes. They began appearing in my dreams after the 15th dragon. Hermaeus Mora, the writhing mass of eyes and tentacles, whispering of secrets and power, and the inevitable claim he has on all Dragonborn. His voice is like oil sliding through my thoughts, leaving stains that do not wash away. Mephala, the web spinner, offering to teach me the art of manipulation. Her laughter sounds like spiders crawling across glass. Sheogorath, the madman, laughing at jokes only he can hear, inviting me to his realm of cheese and madness. They circle like vultures, waiting for me to break, waiting for me to reach for power beyond my grasp. Because that is what the Dragonborn does, eventually. We reach too far, we take too much, and something darker than dragon souls fills the space where our humanity used to be. The 27th dragon was the one that broke something inside me. His name was Nahugliev. He attacked the village of Rorikstead at dawn, while the farmers were leading their cattle to pasture. I was traveling the road from Whiterun when I heard the screams echo across the plains. By the time I arrived, running until my lungs burned and my legs gave out, 3 buildings were burning and 7 people were dead, including a child no older than 5. I found the body behind a collapsed wall, too small to escape, too young to understand what was happening. Her hands were still reaching toward the door that had fallen on top of her. She had been so close to getting out. I killed Nahugliev with a shout that tore him from the sky. Unrelenting force, the full 3 words, screamed with every ounce of rage and grief I possessed. I watched him fall, watched his scales begin to dissolve, watched his soul rise toward me like a golden fog. And then the impressions came. His birth in the Merethic era, the first time he felt fire in his throat. His love for Alduin, his lord, his god, who had promised that dragons would rule forever. He had not wanted to attack Rorikstead. Alduin had commanded it. He was testing me, provoking me, measuring my growth. Nahugliev had been terrified of his master's return, terrified of what Alduin would do to him if he disobeyed, and so he had burned innocent people alive because he was more afraid of his lord than of me. The child in the burned house had died because a dragon was too cowardly to say no to his god. When the impressions faded enough for me to think again, I was on my knees in the ashes, weeping. Not for the villagers, not for the child, for him, for the ancient, frightened creature who had killed children because he did not know how to refuse his master. What kind of monster weeps for the monster? The villagers found me there. They thought I was mourning the dead. They thanked me for saving them, for being the hero they needed. They pressed coins and food into my hands. A woman kissed my cheek and called me blessed. A man named his newborn son after me. None of them knew that their hero was weeping for the monster. There is a madness that comes with the voice. The greybeards warned me about it in their careful, cryptic way. Speaking too loudly can shake the foundations of reality. Speaking too often can erode the boundaries between yourself and the power you wield. Every word of Dovazul is a fragment of creation itself, a piece of the divine song that Akatosh used to shape the world. Mortals were not meant to speak that language. Our minds are too small, our souls are too fragile. But the Dragonborn is not quite mortal. I noticed the changes slowly. My senses sharpened until I could hear heartbeats from across a room, smell fear like copper on the wind, see in darkness as clearly as daylight. I could tell when someone was lying by the way their pulse quickened. I could track a rabbit through fresh snow by scent alone. My skin grew tougher. A blade that would have laid me open a year ago now leaves only shallow scratches. Wounds healed faster, sometimes closing before my eyes. I stopped feeling cold, even on the throat of the world, where the wind cuts through iron and bone. Food began to taste different. Vegetables became bland, almost offensive. Meat became more appealing, the rarer the better. The smell of blood no longer made me queasy. Instead, it made me hungry in ways I do not want to examine, and my temper changed. Dragons are proud creatures. They do not bow. They do not submit. They do not accept weakness in themselves or others. As their souls accumulated inside me, their arrogance bled into my thoughts like poison into water. I found myself looking down on ordinary people. Farmers, merchants, soldiers. They seemed so small, so brief, their lives measured in decades while dragons counted eons. I caught myself thinking of them as prey. The first time I raised my voice in anger, just my natural voice, not a shout, the windows of the inn cracked. Everyone turned to stare. The innkeeper's wife burst into tears. A child screamed. I paid for the damage and fled into the night, horrified at what I had done. The second time, a man fell to his knees, clutching his ears, blood dripping from his nose. He had been berating a barmaid, calling her names, threatening her. I had only meant to tell him to stop. Instead, my voice nearly killed him. I did not mean to hurt him. I had simply forgotten that my voice was no longer just a voice. The greybeards speak in whispers because their voices are too powerful for normal speech. I am beginning to understand why. But they have decades of discipline. They have their mountain and their meditation and their way. I have a war to fight, and wars do not wait for discipline. Alduin found me first. I was crossing the pass near Dustman's Cairn when the sky went dark. The sun itself seemed to dim, as if someone had thrown a cloth over it. The temperature dropped so fast that my breath froze in the air before it left my mouth. And a voice like grinding consonants spoke my name, my true name. The name in Dovazul that I had not known I possessed until he said it. He descended from the clouds like a falling mountain, black scales drinking the light, eyes burning with the fire of the first dawn. The World Eater, the Nordic god of destruction, the firstborn of Akatosh who would devour time itself, and my kin, in a way that made me want to vomit. We carry the same fire, the same language in the blood, the same shard of divinity, if the priests are right about such things. Akatosh made the dragons. Akatosh made the Dragonborn. We are all pieces of the same divine mystery. And when Alduin looked at me, he knew exactly what I was. He called me a thief, jaw, mortal. He said the word like a curse, spitting it from his fanged mouth with contempt older than recorded history. He said I stole the souls of his children, trapped them in my pathetic mortal shell, denied them the glory of resurrection at his side. He said I was an abomination, a violation of the natural order, a wound in the skin of reality that he would close with fire. Then he tried to kill me. Fire so hot it turned sand to glass, wings that created hurricanes with a single beat, teeth that could crush castle walls like dry leaves. I survived through luck and desperation and the intervention of Parthenax, who emerged from the mist like a grey ghost and drove Alduin away with a voice that shook the mountain. The avalanche their battle caused buried me for nearly an hour. I clawed my way out through snow and rock, gasping, bleeding, barely alive. But I saw something in Alduin's eyes before he fled. Not anger, not hatred, recognition. He knew me. Not the mortal I had been, but the thing I was becoming. He saw the dragon souls writhing inside me, the hunger that was growing in my heart, the pride that had begun to corrupt my thoughts. He saw his own reflection staring back at him through human eyes, and he smiled. They teach you about Sovngarde in the temples, the Nordic afterlife, the Hall of Valor, where heroes feast and fight and drink for eternity beneath skies of shifting light. Every Nord child grows up dreaming of dying with a sword in hand, earning their place at Shaw's table, joining the honored dead in glory everlasting. They do not tell you what Alduin was doing there. The World Eater had made Sovngarde his feeding ground. The mist that rolled across the endless plains was his doing, a fog of souls that confused the dead and made them easy prey. I walked through that mist and heard the voices of lost heroes calling out, begging for directions, weeping with frustration. The greatest warriors in Nordic history were trapped in an endless twilight, hunted like deer, their eternal reward transformed into eternal torment. And when I followed him there, when I crossed the barrier between life and death to face him for the final time, I understood the true horror of what I was. The souls inside me recognized that place. They remembered dying. They remembered the light and the peace and the promise of rest that should have awaited them. And they remembered being torn away, not by Alduin but by me. Every dragon I had killed, every soul I had absorbed, had been denied whatever afterlife awaited them. I was their prison. I was their hell. I was no different from Alduin. The heroes of Sovngarde helped me defeat him. Gormlaith Golden Hilt, Hakon One Eye, Feldir the Old, the same warriors who had cast Alduin forward through time in the Dragon War. They taught me the Dragonren shout, the weapon mortals had crafted from their hatred of dragonkind. We forced Alduin to the ground, and I killed him with my own hands, and his soul rose toward me like all the others. But I did not absorb it. I do not know why. Perhaps his soul was too vast, too ancient, too fundamental to reality itself. Perhaps Akatosh reclaimed his firstborn before I could steal him. Perhaps some fragment of mercy still existed in my heart, and I refused to carry him with me forever. The scholars and priests debate the reasons. I have no answers to give them. All I know is that Alduin is gone, but I can still hear his voice. Laughing, waiting, reminding me that dragons cannot truly die, that he will return, and that when he does, I will not be able to stop him, because by then, I will be just like him. I returned to Skyrim as a hero. Songs were written about my deeds. The bards competed to compose the most dramatic version of my battles. Statues were carved in my likeness. Though none of them looked like me, the Jarl of Whiterun gave me lands and titles. The College of Winterhold offered me a position teaching the voice. The companions wanted me to lead them into a new age of glory. Everyone smiled and bowed and treated me like the greatest mortal who had ever lived. None of them looked closely enough to see what they were worshipping. The dragon souls are louder now, 43 of them, each one a distinct presence, each one fighting for space in my skull. They argue in their ancient language, debating philosophy, reliving memories, making wagers on how much longer my sanity will hold. Some have accepted their fate and offer counsel, guiding my use of the voice, teaching me words I should not know. Others still rage against their imprisonment, battering the walls of my mind, searching for cracks they can exploit. And the hunger is getting worse. I crave dragon souls now. Not the way a man craves food or drink, but the way a drowned man craves air. When I go too long without a kill, the whispers grow deafening. My hands shake, my vision blurs. I become irritable, violent, dangerous to anyone who stands too close. The relief of a fresh soul is almost euphoric, a wave of power and clarity that makes the world seem sharp and bright and full of possibility. Then the guilt crashes in, and I remember that I have just consumed a sentient being, and the cycle begins again. The greybeards have noticed. Parthenax has noticed. They speak carefully around me now, watching my eyes for signs of the madness that consumed so many Dragonborn before me. Miraak, the first Dragonborn, served Hermaeus Mora and tried to enslave the world. The Dragonborn emperors grew so arrogant they believed themselves gods. Every one of us, eventually, breaks. I can feel the cracks forming. The dragons have learned to hide. Alduin is gone. The dragon crisis has ended. The survivors have fled to distant corners of Tamriel, to the frozen wastes beyond Skyrim's borders, to mountain peaks so remote that no mortal has ever climbed them. Some have crossed the seas to Akavir or Atmora. Others have burrowed into ancient ruins, waiting for the Dragonborn to die of old age or madness or his own growing hunger. Without dragons to hunt, without souls to consume, the hunger has become unbearable. And something has changed in how I see the world. Hermaeus Mora showed me things in his realm. Forbidden knowledge, the true nature of souls and the connections between all living things. He called it a gift. He called it understanding. I call it a curse worse than the dragon souls themselves. I have started sensing life force in people. Not souls, not the way I perceive dragons, but something close. A warmth, a vibration, the faint echo of mortality that pulses in every living being. When I look at crowds now, I see not faces but fuel, not people but potential. The dragon souls inside me whisper encouragement. They tell me that Dragonborn are meant to dominate, that mortals exist to serve or to be consumed, that the boundary between dragon and mortal souls is thinner than I want to believe. They are testing boundaries, pushing against the walls of my will, searching for weakness. I know they are wrong. I know this is the corruption talking, the slow erosion of everything I used to be. But the voice is hard to resist, the power is intoxicating, and the loneliness is crushing. No one can understand what I am. The people who love me see a hero. The people who fear me see a weapon. The people who knew me before, my family back in Bruma, would not recognize me now. I sent them gold but no letters. What would I say? That their son has become a monster? That the boy who sorted furs by candlelight now hears dead dragons arguing in his skull? No one sees the man I used to be, the trader's son from Bruma who just wanted to find work and send money home. That man is gone. The dragons ate him one soul at a time. Hermaeus Mora visited me again last night. He did not threaten. He did not bargain. He simply showed me more truth. His realm unfolded around me like a book opening in every direction at once. Endless shelves stretching into infinity. Eyes watching from every shadow. Tentacles coiling through the gaps between words. And in the center of it all, the accumulated knowledge of every Dragonborn who came before me. Miraak was not the exception. He was the rule. Every Dragonborn eventually finds their way to Apocrypha, to the realm of forbidden knowledge, to the Daedric Prince who collects mortal souls the way others collect books. We are drawn there by our nature, the hunger for power, the need to understand what we are, the desperate hope that somewhere, in some forgotten text, there is a cure for what ails us. There is no cure. Mora showed me the future. Not prophecy, which can be changed, but probability, which cannot. In 8 out of every 10 possible timelines, I serve him. In the other 2, I die young, killed by my own arrogance or the vengeance of those I failed to save. There is no ending where I grow old in peace. There is no ending where I return to Bruma and live a quiet life. There is no ending where I hold my mother's hand again or teach my brother's children about furs and amber. The Dragonborn does not get a happy ending. When he finished, when his eyes stopped watching me from every shadow, I sat alone in my house in Whiterun and thought about everything I had lost. My name, which no one uses anymore, my humanity, which fades a little more with every kill, my future, which belongs to forces beyond my control. And I thought about the child in Rorikstead, the one Nahagliev killed, and I wondered if her family knew that their destroyer lived on inside me. If they knew that when I close my eyes, I can still feel the heat of his flames, still sense his fear as he watched them burn. I am not Miraak, not yet, but I understand him now. The power corrupts, because it must. The souls accumulate, because they cannot be released. The hunger grows, because it is never satisfied. And eventually, inevitably, the man becomes the monster. This is the truth of being Dragonborn. The power is intoxicating. The fame opens every door. The fighting is terrifying but thrilling in ways I cannot explain. These things have their compensations, but they do not outweigh the loss. Loss of yourself, piece by piece, as dragon souls accumulate inside you. Loss of human connection, because no one can understand what you are becoming. Loss of choice, because prophecy has already written your story. Loss of sleep, because dead dragons do not rest, and neither can you. Loss of the future, because you can see exactly what you are becoming and cannot do anything to stop it. The Dragonborn is not blessed. The Dragonborn is cursed. I am standing on the edge of that darkness now. Some nights, I think about walking into it, just letting go, stopping the endless battle against the voices, the hunger, the slow erosion of my humanity, accepting what the dragons want me to be and becoming it fully, without guilt or reservation. Other nights, I think about my mother's hands and my brother's laughter and the way morning light used to fall through the windows of our cottage in Bruma. I think about the person I was before Helgen, before Alduin, before the first dragon soul burned its way into my chest. I think about the chipped ceramic bowl that my mother never replaced. And I keep fighting, not because I can win, not because there is any hope of recovery, but because the man I used to be would have wanted me to. Because somewhere, buried under 43 dragon souls and a destiny I never chose, there is still a trader's son who believed in honest work and warm hearths and the simple hope that tomorrow might be better than today. That hope is almost gone now, but almost is not the same as completely. And so I stand here, on the edge of everything, holding on to the last fragment of who I was, knowing that I will probably lose it, knowing that the darkness is patient, and I am tired, knowing that this story does not have a happy ending, but it is my story, and I will keep telling it as long as I can,